It started like any ordinary afternoon, the kind where the air outside feels soft, the office hums with quiet clicking sounds, and I lose myself in the rhythm of my work. I've always been that kind of person, calm, focused, a little too serious for my age, maybe. My colleagues used to tease me for how much I loved silence. But silence, to me, was a friend. That day, my silence was broken by a familiar knock, light, playful, like it always was. It was Lara, my best friend. My complete opposite. She was the kind of person who could walk into any room and make it brighter, lighter, more alive. Her laughter could lift even the dullest day, and her energy made people orbit around her without even realizing it. "Emma," she said, pushing open the glass door, holding her phone in one hand and a wide grin on her face. "You won't believe what I'm about to ask you." I smiled, half listening as I closed my laptop. "That sounds dangerous already." She leaned on the edge of my desk, her perfume, something sweet and floral, filling the room. "So I have a date tonight," she began, "with someone really nice, but I'm nervous." "It's new," I said, teasing. "You nervous about a date?" She bit her lip, smiling shyly. "Okay, don't laugh, but I've never actually kissed anyone properly. I mean, like, really kissed." I froze for a second, unsure if she was joking. "You're kidding, right?" "No," she said, laughing at herself. "And I don't want to embarrass myself tonight. So I was wondering if you could—" She hesitated, her voice softening. "Show me?" My brain went quiet. The words didn't make sense at first. I blinked, trying to laugh it off. "Lara, stop messing around." "I'm serious," she said, her voice gentler now. "Just once, so I know what I'm doing." The way she looked at me, innocent, trusting, unaware, made something twist inside me. I wanted to say no. I wanted to laugh and change the subject. But instead, I found myself studying her face, the curve of her lips, the way her eyes shimmered with mischief and something softer underneath. "Lara, this is crazy," I whispered. "I know," she said. "But who else am I supposed to ask?" "You're my best friend. I trust you." That word, trust, hit me like a slow-moving wave. Before I could think, before I could reason, she stepped closer. Her hand brushed against mine. It was such a small thing, but it sent a tremor through me. My heart began to beat faster, the air around us thickening. She tilted her head slightly, waiting. I could see her breathing quicken dot, and then it happened. Her lips met mine, softly, hesitantly, as if afraid of breaking something fragile. I didn't move at first, but then something deeper pulled me in. The warmth, the closeness, the unspoken connection that had always been there between us but never named. It all came flooding out in that one moment, Dot. It wasn't about desire. It wasn't about curiosity. It was about feeling something you didn't know you were missing. Her hand reached up to my cheek, trembling slightly, and I realized my own fingers had found their way to the back of her neck. The kiss deepened, slow, emotional, heartbreaking in its own way. Time seemed to stop. The world fell silent. There was only her. Only us, Dot, when we finally pulled away. Her eyes were wide, wet, searching mine. Neither of us spoke, Dot. It should have ended there. It could have been just a mistake, a silly emotional accident. But even as she left the cabin, smiling awkwardly, something inside me had changed. I didn't know it yet. But that single kiss had opened a door that neither of us would be able to close again, because what we didn't know was how much that one kiss would cost us. That night, I couldn't sleep. It had been 3 days since it happened, the kiss that wasn't supposed to happen. We didn't talk about it. We acted like it never did. At the office, everything looked the same laughter, the same coffee runs, the same tiny moments that once felt harmless. But now, every second around her felt heavier, like there was something thick in the air, something unspoken hanging between us. She would glance at me sometimes, not long enough for anyone else to notice, but just enough to make my heartbeat quicken. And when our eyes met, we both looked away, pretending to be busy. By the third night, I'd almost convinced myself I could move on, that it was just a mistake, an emotional slip. I tried to drown myself in emails and unread messages. That's when my phone buzzed. Lara, are you awake? Me, yeah, what's wrong? Lara, can I come over? It was nearly midnight. Something in my chest tightened. I didn't ask why, I just said yes. 10 minutes later, I heard her car outside. She walked in, wearing the same beige coat she'd worn the day we first kissed. Her face looked tired, eyes red like she'd been crying. Hey, I said softly. She tried to smile but failed. My date was tonight. I swallowed. Oh, how did it go? She let out a shaky breath, sitting on the couch. It went fine. He was nice, sweet. He said all the right things. She paused. But when he kissed me, I felt nothing. I looked at her, heart pounding. Lara, she shook her head, eyes glistening. I don't understand. It should have felt right, but it didn't. I kept thinking about... She stopped. I waited, my throat dry. About what? She looked up at me, voice trembling. About you. For a moment, the world went silent. Even the clock on the wall seemed to hold its breath. I've been trying to forget it, she whispered. That day in your cabin. The way it felt. The way you looked at me. I've tried to convince myself it was just curiosity, but... Her voice broke. Why did it feel so real? I wanted to say something rational, something that would fix this. But all that came out was a whisper. Because it was real, Lara. Her tears slipped down quietly. This isn't supposed to happen, Emma. I'm not supposed to feel this. I know, I said, barely breathing. Neither am I. We sat in silence. The only sound was her uneven breathing. Then slowly, she reached for my hand. Her fingers brushed mine hesitantly, trembling. I didn't pull away. The warmth of her skin made my chest ache. I could feel her heartbeat through her palm. Tell me to stop, she whispered. I wanted to. I really did. But I couldn't, Lara. I said softly, you don't understand what you're doing to me. She looked at me then, really looked. Her eyes were full of confusion, pain, and something even deeper. Maybe I don't, but I can't keep pretending that I don't feel anything. And just like that, she leaned forward. The space between us vanished. Her lips touched mine, not playful, not curious, but desperate. I froze, then melted into her. The kiss was slow at first, trembling, hesitant. Then it deepened, raw and emotional. It wasn't about right or wrong anymore. It was about need. Her hand slid up to my face, and I felt the warmth of her tears against my cheek. She was crying while kissing me, and somehow that made it even more heartbreaking. When we finally pulled apart, she pressed her forehead against mine, whispering between quiet sobs, "Why does it hurt like this?" I couldn't answer. My hands were still holding her close, afraid that if I let go, she'd disappear. I can't lose you, I said, my voice cracking. She closed her eyes. And I can't face what this means. We stayed like that for a long time, her curled up against me, my arms around her, the room wrapped in silence. I could feel her heartbeat slow against my chest, could smell her perfume mixing with the faint scent of rain from the open window. When she finally spoke again, her voice was soft. This can't happen again. I nodded, even though I knew we were both lying, because deep down, we both knew something had already begun that neither of us could undo. That night, after she left, I stood by the door for a long time, staring at the space she'd just been standing in. Her presence lingered in the air like a shadow. And for the first time in my life, I realized what real loneliness feels like, not when someone leaves you, but when they're still around. Pretending nothing happened, I sat on the floor, back against the door, whispering to myself, this is how it starts, not with love, but with the memory of something you'll never get back. The days that followed were quiet, painfully quiet, not the kind of quiet that soothes you, but the kind that wraps around your chest and makes it hard to breathe. Lara stopped coming by my office. She stopped sending her late-night texts, stopped sharing her random stories or little jokes that used to brighten my days. It was like she'd vanished, and the silence she left behind was louder than her laughter ever was. Every morning, I glanced toward her desk across the hallway. Empty. No coffee cup. No humming. No messy pile of papers. Just absence. I tried telling myself it was better this way. That distance was necessary, that we were doing the right thing. But every time I told myself that, it felt like I was lying. The guilt came in waves. First, for crossing the line, then for wanting to cross it again, and somewhere in between that guilt and longing, I realized I was falling for her, but I couldn't accept that. Not yet, it wasn't love, I told myself. It couldn't be. Love was supposed to make you happy. What I felt was heavy, complicated, secret. It made me feel like I was drowning in emotions I didn't have words for. At work, our eyes met a few times. Quick, nervous glances, the kind that said everything without a sound. She'd look away first, pretending to be busy, and I'd force myself to do the same. Sometimes I'd catch her lingering by my cabin door during lunch, holding her phone, hesitating. Before walking away, it hurt. But I didn't call her back either. We were both waiting for what I didn't know. Forgiveness? Forgetfulness? One evening, after another long day of pretending, I was sitting alone in my apartment, the lights dim. When my phone buzzed, Lara, we need to talk. My stomach sank. For a long moment. I just stared at the message, trying to guess what she might say. Then I replied quietly, okay, come over if you want. She didn't. Instead, she called. Her voice was soft, tired, the kind of voice that carries both affection and exhaustion. Emma, she said slowly, I can't sleep anymore. I feel guilty all the time. I swallowed. About what happened? She let out a shaky breath. About everything. About us. About how I think of you when I shouldn't. About how wrong it all feels, even though it felt right when it happened. Her words cut through me. She continued, I'm trying to feel normal again. I've been going out with Ryan, spending time with him. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. But when he holds my hand, I don't feel anything. And when he kisses me, she paused, voice breaking. I close my eyes and wish it was you. I didn't say anything. My hands were shaking. She sighed. I hate myself for saying that. You don't have to hate yourself, I said quietly. We were both confused. It was just emotion, Lara. Maybe we mistook comfort for love. She went silent. The kind of silence that hurts more than words. Finally, she whispered, do you really believe that? I hesitated. I have to. The truth was, I didn't. But I knew if I said what I really felt, it would destroy whatever was left of us. She sniffled softly, trying to steady her voice. I don't want us to drift apart, Emma. You're my best friend. I need you in my life. I'm not going anywhere, I said, though my chest tightened. But deep down, I knew we were already drifting. Because love, or whatever this was, changes everything it touches. After a few moments, she whispered, I should go. Okay, good night. Good night. Lara. The call ended, but her voice lingered in my ears like a fading song I didn't want to stop listening to. I sat there in the dark, staring at the city lights through my window. My reflection looked strange, tired, older, Lonelir. And for the first time, I realized the kind of guilt I was carrying wasn't about right or wrong. It was about loving someone I wasn't supposed to love. A week passed before I saw her again. It was in the hallway between meetings. She was holding a stack of files, wearing that familiar pale blue shirt. For a moment, she looked up and smiled, that same warm smile that had always undone me, but then her eyes flickered away, and the smile faded before it reached her lips. I smiled back anyway, pretending everything was fine, the truth. I missed her every single day. I missed her laugh, her voice, her chaos. But more than anything, I missed the version of myself I was when she was near, softer, alive, seen. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my heart heavy, my mind restless. I replayed that first kiss, how innocent it was, how natural. I wondered if she still thought about it too. Then my phone lit up again. Lara, you deserve someone who doesn't make you feel guilty. One typed and deleted a dozen replies before settling on just one. Be happy, Lara. And then I turned my phone face down on the pillow. Tears came quietly, not dramatic. Not loud, just soft and endless, because I had meant every word. And yet every word had broken me. In the silence of that night, I whispered to myself, I told her to be happy. But I couldn't breathe when I said it. It's strange how life keeps moving, even when your heart doesn't. Weeks turned into months. The world around me went on, meetings, deadlines, laughter in the corridors, but inside, everything was still frozen in that moment when Lara walked away. She started dating again, Ryan, the same guy she once said didn't make her feel anything. Now her photos with him appeared on social media, smiles, dinners, sunsets. And each one felt like a quiet stab, not because I wanted to own her, but because I could see the truth behind her eyes. She smiled for the camera, but her eyes, they were tired, sad, distant. I wanted to tell myself she was happy, that she had moved on, but every picture said otherwise, and me. I threw myself into work. I arrived early, stayed late, volunteered for every extra task. My promotion came faster than I expected. New title, bigger office, better pay. Everyone congratulated me, but I couldn't feel it, because every time I turned my chair toward the door, I still half expected to see Lara walk in, holding her coffee cup, her messy bun barely holding up, saying, "You look exhausted, Emma. Did you even sleep?" But she never did. At first, we didn't talk at all. Then, slowly, she started sending small messages again, short, polite, empty. Congrats on the promotion. Hope you're doing well. Happy birthday. I replied every time, just as politely, just as emptily, but every word felt like walking on broken glass. Careful, quiet, painful. We were pretending to be fine. Pretending the world hadn't tilted. Pretending we hadn't kissed twice. Sometimes I'd scroll through our old chats, reading her late-night confessions, her jokes, her voice notes full of laughter. I'd play them again just to hear her voice, to remind myself that it once sounded happy when she talked to me. And then, one night, when everything was still, my phone rang. Lara. It was past midnight. My heart skipped. I hesitated before answering. Hey, I said softly. There was silence. Then a shaky breath. Emma, she whispered, her voice slightly slurred. I'm sorry for calling so late. It's okay, I said, sitting up. Are you all right? She laughed faintly, the kind of laugh that's really a cry. I had a few drinks, she admitted. Ryan and I had dinner. He said he loves me. I said it back. And then I went to the bathroom and cried. My chest tightened. I still miss you, she said, her voice breaking. I thought time would fix it, but it didn't. It just made it quieter. Quieter, but not gone. I closed my eyes. Lara, I keep pretending, she whispered. Every day I pretend I'm happy. I pretend that what happened between us didn't mean anything. But when I close my eyes, I still see you. I still feel that night. I didn't realize I was crying until a tear rolled down my cheek. I miss you too, I finally said, my voice barely audible. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. The silence was full, heavy, warm, unbearable. Then she said softly, "Can I see you?" "Just talk?" Against my better judgment, I said yes. An hour later, she was standing outside my apartment. She looked the same and yet completely different, tired, vulnerable, beautiful in that way that breaks you. We sat on the couch. The room was dimly lit, like it knew we were both hiding from the truth. She didn't sit close, but the distance between us felt fragile, as if one breath could close it. We didn't touch. We didn't need to. The air between us was thick with everything we couldn't say. She looked at me, eyes glossy, voice trembling. "I thought love was supposed to make sense," she said quietly. "But this, you and me, it just hurts." I nodded. "Because we're trying to live lies we don't believe in?" Her lips parted slightly, but no words came out. Just a quiet sigh that said everything. For a moment, we just sat there, staring at nothing, our hands inches apart on the sofa. I wanted to reach for her, to take her hand, to remind her what real felt like. But I didn't, because sometimes love isn't about reaching out. It's about letting go before it destroys you both. She stood up slowly. "I should go." I nodded. My throat was tight. "Yeah." She hesitated by the door. "Do you ever regret it?" I looked at her, really looked. "No, never. I only regret that we had to hide it." She smiled sadly. "I don't think I'll ever forget you, Emma." And then she was gone. I stood by the window for a long time after that, watching the streetlights blur through my tears. The city outside looked alive, but inside, everything was still quiet and aching. Days later, I saw her again, passing by in the hallway, walking next to Ryan. They were holding hands, laughing. When our eyes met, she smiled, just enough for me to know she still remembered, and I smiled back, pretending it didn't hurt, because that's what moving on looks like sometimes. Not healing, not forgetting, just learning how to live with a heart that still remembers someone who doesn't belong to you anymore. That night, as I turned off the lights in my room, I whispered to myself, maybe love doesn't always end when it's over. Maybe some parts of it just keep living quietly inside you. It's strange how some news sounds louder than any sound you've ever heard. I was sitting in my office when Lara's message appeared on my screen. Just 2 words, "I'm engaged." For a moment, I just stared at it, as if the letters themselves would rearrange into something else, something softer. But they didn't. They stayed exactly as they were, small, cruel, and final. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, searching for words that didn't exist. Finally, I just typed back, "Congratulations." 2 dots blinked on the screen for a few seconds, then disappeared. She didn't reply. That night, I cried without a sound. The kind of crying that doesn't even need tears, just silence. Heavy and endless. Over the next few weeks, the office started feeling smaller. I heard her laughter echoing from other rooms, and every time, it felt like someone was playing a memory I wasn't ready to hear. She avoided me, not cruelly, just carefully. Like someone walking barefoot through broken glass. Everyone was talking about her wedding plans, her move to another city, the ring, the dress. I smiled when they mentioned her name. I even asked questions just to sound normal. But inside, I was counting the days. The day she'd be gone. The day I'd lose her for good. Then, on her last evening before leaving, my door opened quietly. I didn't have to look up. I already knew it was her. She closed the door behind her gently, the same way she always did when she wanted to talk privately. The same way she had that first day, the day everything began. For a second, neither of us spoke. The hum of the air conditioner filled the silence. Finally, she said softly, I wanted to say goodbye to you properly. I forced a smile. You didn't have to. You've been busy. She shook her head, stepping closer. No, I did. I couldn't just leave like this. She looked different, calm, mature, and heartbreakingly beautiful. There was a light in her eyes, but it wasn't joy. It was something gentler, sadder. I kept thinking, she said, her voice trembling. If I see you today, maybe I'll finally be able to move on. Maybe if I say goodbye, the part of me that still wants you will finally stop hurting. My throat tightened. And do you think it will? She smiled faintly. I don't know. I'm hoping it will. She looked around the room, the walls, the desk. The same chair she once sat in when she asked me to show her how to kiss. It feels like everything started here. She whispered. It did, I said. And maybe it's only fair that it ends here too. We both laughed softly, but it wasn't real laughter. It was a sound made of memories. Delicate and tired Dot, she came closer. Close enough that I could smell her perfume. The same one she wore that first day. Emma, she said. Her voice barely a whisper. What we had. It was real, wasn't it? I met her eyes. Yes, it was real. Maybe too real. A tear rolled down her cheek. Then why does it have to end like this? I swallowed hard. Because sometimes love shows up in the wrong story. She looked away, her lips trembling. He's a good man. He loves me. I think I can learn to love him back. I nodded slowly. Then you should go. You deserve peace. She took a deep breath, wiped her tears, and whispered, You'll always be the person who made me feel something I didn't know existed. I wanted to say something, to tell her she'd changed me too, that she'd shown me what real love felt like, but my voice failed me, Dot, instead. She stepped closer, Dot, her hand reached up, brushing my cheek softly. You'll be okay, won't you? I tried to smile, but it came out broken. Eventually. And then she leaned in and kissed my forehead, gently, painfully. Beautifully, Dot, it wasn't the kind of kiss that made your heart race. It was the kind that made it stop. Her lips lingered for a moment, warm and trembling, and when she pulled back, her eyes were full of everything we couldn't say. I whispered, It wasn't the kiss that broke me. It was the silence that followed. She didn't answer. She just gave me one last look, that soft, teary look of someone saying goodbye without words, and walked out of my office. The door clicked shut, and just like that, the world went quiet. The chair she sat on, the scent of her perfume in the air, the faint sound of her footsteps fading down the hall. Everything became unbearable. I sat there for hours, staring at the door, half expecting her to come back and say she'd changed her mind, but she didn't. When the cleaners came in, I pretended to be working. I stayed late that night, maybe because I didn't want to walk past the place where she said goodbye. Later, when I finally went home, I stood in front of the mirror and whispered, Goodbye. Lara, as if saying it aloud would make it real. Dot, it didn't. Because how do you say goodbye to someone who never really leaves your heart? The next morning, her desk was empty. Her nameplate gone, and in its place only silence, the kind that lingers long after the person is gone, the kind that becomes a part of you. That day, I realized something. Love doesn't always end with anger or betrayal. Sometimes it ends with acceptance, the quiet kind that doesn't make sense, but somehow keeps you alive. She moved away. I moved on, but every time I close my eyes, I still see that moment. Her hand on my face, her whisper in my ear, her forehead kiss that said goodbye better than words ever could. And in that memory, I'm still standing in my office, still watching her leave, still breaking softly, silently. Years passed, and with time, I learned something no one ever warns you about, that some goodbyes don't fade with distance. They just grow quieter. I'm 32 now. A department head. A name people respect. My calendar is always full. My phone always buzzing. I smile when I'm supposed to, laugh when I should. I've built a life that looks complete, but sometimes, when the office is silent and the sun starts setting against the glass walls, I still hear her laughter echo faintly in my memory. Lara. She's been gone for years. Moved to another city, married. I heard through mutual friends that she has a daughter. Now, a little girl with her same brown eyes and soft curls. They say she's happy, and I believe them. At least I try to, because that's what love becomes. Eventually, a quiet belief that the person you once loved is safe somewhere in the world. Even if it's not with you, sometimes when I'm alone at my desk, I open the bottom drawer, the one no one else touches. Inside, there's an old photo, slightly faded. It's from a team trip years ago. We're both smiling, her arm around my shoulder, my hair messy from the wind. No one looking at it would know the truth. No one would guess that behind those smiles were stolen moments, trembling hands, and a secret that still lives inside me. I trace her face in the picture with my fingertip. You changed everything, I whisper. It wasn't the kind of love that turned into a forever. It wasn't the kind that got weddings or anniversaries or family blessings. It was something smaller, but somehow bigger. Something that never got a chance to become, yet still became everything. Some nights, when the city goes quiet and the only sound is the soft hum of the computer fan, I find myself thinking about that first kiss, how innocent it was, how it wasn't meant to happen, how it still defines everything I know about love, because I've dated since then. I've met good people, kind people, people who made me laugh, but it never felt the same. Nothing ever did, and maybe that's okay. Maybe not every love story is meant to last. Some are just meant to show you what love actually feels like, raw, confusing, impossible, and real. I still remember the last words she said to me, "You'll be okay, won't you?" And I am. Mostly. I go to work. I come home. I read books, cook dinner, go to sleep. But sometimes, in the quiet moments between everything, I still see her, the way she looked back at me that day before walking out the door. I wonder if she ever thinks about me. Even for a second, when she's making coffee, or when she hears a song that once played in my car. Maybe not. Maybe yes. Love doesn't need both hearts to remember. Sometimes one is enough. I've learned to live with that. With this quiet ache that no longer hurts the way it used to. It just exists. Like a soft scar you learn to trace instead of hide. It wasn't the love I was supposed to have, but it's the one that taught me what love really is, and for that, I'll always be grateful. Tonight, as I sit by my window, the city lights blur like stars fallen too close to the earth. I hold the photo once more, smiling faintly. If she ever walks back in, I whisper and says, "Show me again." I pause, feeling the warmth of tears I didn't expect. I know I'd still forget how to say no. The room is quiet again, that familiar, peaceful kind of silence that feels like both an ending and a beginning. I close the drawer gently. The picture stays inside, like a memory waiting to be remembered again someday. Outside. The wind carries faint echoes, laughter, voices, life moving on, and I sit there for a long time. Not sad, not broken, just grateful that once, even if only for a moment, love had found me in the most unexpected way. Because the truth is, some loves don't fade. They just stay tucked quietly between who you were and who you became because of them. And no matter where she is now or who she's with, a part of me will always whisper softly into the night, "You were my almost, my never, my always."